And welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with the Honorable Peter Bethlenfalvy. He is Ontario's Finance Minister and the Member of Provincial Parliament for Pickering Uxbridge. Peter, I mentioned just before the break, well, first of all, you talked about how Premier Ford and your team, the whole Ontario government team, has been preparing for this moment, a potential change of administration, which in the U.S., which has come to pass, obviously, and will be operational on January 20th. So I've been following a little bit of what your government, Premier Ford, has been saying. For instance, he's called on the digital services tax to be put on hold by the federal government. Very interesting point of view, given that that has been a trade irritant with the United States. Maybe take us through the thought process there, why that's important.
Well, actually, about half a year ago, I sent a letter to Christopher Freeland saying, "Don't do the digital tax right now. Let's work bilaterally on that, but now's not the time." As we enter into new negotiations, as we have an election, and now we have a clear-cut winner. This is we got to be very careful how we manage that relationship. So both the premier and I have steadfast recommended to Ottawa, don't impose the digital tax. We can work it out. They're our biggest trading partner. If Ontario was a country, we would be the third largest trading partner after Mexico and China. It's massive stakes at play here. So the digital tax, and it was not the time to do it in our judgment. And both the premier and I have made that very clear to Ottawa.
Point two, and this just came out in the last, I don't know, 48 hours or so, but Premier Ford has talked about maybe the need to separate some of our interests from Mexico when it comes to Canada-US free trade. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I completely agree. So first off, our biggest trading partner is the United States. I explain how it's 500 billion, half a trillion of two-way trade, massive. Number two, as China is often the target of some of the trade comments coming out of President-elect Trump's administration and his views, we recommended again to Ottawa to match the U.S. administration's tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. And gladly and happily, they agreed with us, and Ottawa did follow through on that.
Right.
Because I think, when the walls go up, you want to be inside the wall with the U.S., our
Right.
largest trade. Right. And there's a lot more that goes with that. National security. We've got a lot of, we've talked about two-way trade, but there's critical minerals, there's energy, there's so many vital security interests that we have where we're stronger together. And so we're going to continue to work with the U.S. and make sure we understand if it's Mexico or China, that if the interests don't line up with Canada and the U.S., we're going to be with the U.S.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, and a little known fact that the government of which I was a member, the Stephen Harper government, we were coming to the same conclusion that our interests didn't align when there was a Canada, U.S., Mexico discussion. 90% of the American interest and attention was on U.S. Mexico for obvious reasons. We were kind of getting the short end of the stick in the trilateral discussions. It was a lot easier if we had bilateral discussions. Is that nothing against Mexico? Lovely place, visited it last February, but in terms of our trade interests, that bilateral discussion that we have with the U.S. is the most important. Is that similar to the conclusions that you drew?
I think that is fair to say, and I would say, look, I'm supporting trade of any type. Canada has more trade agreements around the world. We're a small, open economy, but we want fair trade, and we want a fair shot for our businesses and our workers to be able to compete. And when the deck is stacked against us, we're going to fight for our interests.
We've got about 25 seconds left. Generally optimistic about Ontario's chances, Peter?
I am. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. We've gotten the credit rating upgrade to AA from DBRS. We're still on positive watch with Moody's and S&P. When was the last time you heard any finance minister in Ontario say that? I think we're rebuilding our economy. We talked about building the infrastructure as our population grows and strengthen our healthcare and tackle gridlock. So, I'm feeling optimistic, and I know I'll put up Ontario against anybody.
Well, the Honorable Peter Bethlenfalvy, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks for your presence here today.
It's nice to be back with you, Tony. Thank you.